Hello, thanks for watching the Stephen Mendes channel. I was asked by a viewer to do some more explanation on the virtual engine of the FA-06 synth. The FA-06 has in two synth engines. One is the Supernatural engine, which is very similar. That's the virtual analog synth that's used in their Gaia SH-01, and then there's the more conventional PCM synth used in their older models, which relies on waves, which we just modify. So we filter and adjust the amplitude of waves, and that's the classic one that's used in the older modules, the Roland D110 and D50 and those earlier models of Roland synth. So how do we interact with these different engines? Well, the way we program them is we have to start with a tone that belongs to the particular category of sound we want to program. Once we load a tone of the type that we wish to program, we can alter its parameters and load it back to a memory for that particular category of tone. We can also initialize it to a preset stage and then program from scratch, from a scratch pad, and then save it to an appropriate memory for that sound. Access the tone list by pressing enter, and you will see on the left hand side that these particular tones are SNS, which is the Supernatural Synth engine. And if we scroll down in any particular category far enough, we should find that there are also some PCMS. Notice it's a slightly different thing there in the type. On the left hand side it says PCMS, and if we wanted to edit a PCMS tone, we would simply select one of them by pressing enter, and then we would edit its parameters and save it back to a PCMS memory. So for example, with this one here, if I press Jet Pad 1, which is where it's at right now, that's selected, and then I press Shift Edit Tones, Shift Tone Edit, as you can see here, and there's all the parameters of that particular tone, pages and pages of them. The wave, it has 4 partials, and the top tabs give you the waves, partial pitch, pitch envelope, TVF, TV envelope, TVF envelope, TVA envelope, and output, LFO1, LFO2, step, LFO, and control, matrix control. So those are the parameters for the PCMS tone. Now I can either alter these parameters and then go save and save it back for this tone category, or if I want to initialize it to say a blank slate, I can press shift, sorry, I don't even have to press shift, just press tone utility here, and see it pops up tone initialize. So if I press tone initialize, that will initialize all the parameters to their default values, and I can program it from scratch. So if I do tone initialize when a PCMS tone is selected, I will initialize the PCMS memory area, and I will write, when I click on write tone, I will write to the user PCMS memory area, and the tone, when it's recorded in the list, will have a PCMS type designation. Now if I cancel that and I go back to my list and I select an SNS tone, as you can see there, if I select an SNS tone and I go edit, either shift tone edit over here, or I can go to the menu and select tone edit. several ways to get into the tone editor. It says Tone Edit Pro at the top, and I have the parameters listed there. Now if I'm dealing with a Supernatural Synth tone, which is the virtual engine, then I've got 3 partials or 3 waves instead of 4. But notice that my tabs at the top have changed for the parameters of that particular virtual synth engine. You've got the common tab, you've got the oscillator, pitch, filter, amp, and LFO, modulation, LFO, and aftertouch, and miscellaneous. So now my tabs at the top are relating to the parameters of the virtual engine, and I can change them any way I like and save them back. And when I click on Save Tone, it will save back to a tone that will play through the virtual VA, virtual analog synth IC, instead of the PCM. Right? Now, if I want to initialize this particular virtual analog engine, all I have are the tone that's in the active memory for it, at least. I go once again on Tone Utility, and I press on Tone Initialize. You see it there, and I just click on Tone Initialize. We'll cast it for right now, and all the parameters are initialized back to their default values, and I can program a synth tone, and a virtual analog synth tone with from scratch. Basically set up all the parameters to suit myself. Now, interestingly enough, the oscillators for the virtual analog engine, in fact the whole layout of the parameters resemble an analog synth. So in other words, when I click on the oscillator tab, let's come down here to wave, and I go and I change it, you can see that I have sine, triangle, square, with which I can adjust the duty cycle on, or I can get noise. I have like noise, so I can have noise working on that partial, or I can actually go PCM and select a wave number here. So in other words, I have a list of waves that will work in this one too. So even though it's not a PCM engine, even though it's a virtual analog engine, I can in fact select wave numbers from the bank of built-in waves, and have a wave as the input, and then let it go through the filter and the amplitude modulation. Now interestingly enough, there's a simpler mode that I can go to. I should be able to get back from my Pro mode to my simple mode. I like to operate with mine in Pro, but I just wanted to let you know that if you take it out of the Pro mode. Okay, let's go back here now using the menu. We press menu and we can come up here to Tone Edit, press enter, or select. You can select or press enter, and now you're in the Tone Edit. Now see, it says that I'm in the Pro mode of the tone editor. If I press zoom edit, I've gone out of the Pro Edit. So this button here, this third button that I'm touching, where it says Pro Edit, I press that, I go into the Pro Editor. Now where it says zoom edit, I press that and I go back to the easy mode. Well, the easy mode makes it look more like a conventional analog synth, because here I have up top here I can select my particular wave that I'm working with. Remember that the Gaia or SH-01 virtual analog synthesizer also has 3 waves. It's probably the identical engine. The only thing that is different that I was able to find in the parameters between the SH-01 and the virtual analog engine of the FA series is that when you go to the ring modulator, you have off and on, whereas in the virtual analog you have a sync position where you can actually sync the oscillators in typical analog modular form, where you sync the oscillators together, the sort of hard sync. We don't have that sync option here with the FA, and I'm not quite sure why. But other than that, all the parameters are identical. But basically, you can do, you've got like three miniature analog synths, just like the SH-01. So it's very, very similar to the Gaia SH-01. You've got three miniature analog synths. You've got each with its own wave, its own filter, its own TVA, which is they call it TVA, which is time variant amplifier. But that's just basically a VCA. What we would use is a VCA on an analog synth. So their filters are called TVF for time variant filter and TVA for time variant amplifier. But basically it comes with its own EG attached. So the TVF has its own EG, the TVA has its own EG envelope generator, which, as you can see, is selected by selecting the appropriate tab. So there's the filter tab. See the ADSR right there? ADSR and envelope depth. And you've got the cutoff, the resonance, and key follow. So basically, it's very, very similar. It is real virtual analog. And you come here on the amp, and you've got the pan, the level, and then you got it has its own ADSR, graphic ADSR here. In this mode, in the easy mode, and the pro edit mode, it's just numbers on the menu. So then you come down here, the Lfos are the same. You've got rate, shape. You can have the shape, triangle, square, or whatever you want. And you actually do have a sync switch, a tempo sync switch with your LFO. And so basically, the only disadvantage between the virtual analog engine in this FA-06 and your genuine analog modular synth is that you got to be fiddling with menus. Whereas on your modular, you reach over and turn two knobs at the same time. You got all your knobs laid out in front of you. You really got to get proficient in fiddling with these menus. So it's great if you got plenty of time to play with your sound. You set up your sound and get it ready, and then you go. Save it as a tone and go. But you really can't play it live like you can a modular. Too much trouble with the menus. So you really got to sit home and program, and then save your program as a favorite or whatever. Save the tone and go out there and use a number of tones in your live setting. But you really can't play the instrument the way you would with an analog modular. Okay, let's carry you through the operation of writing that modified tone that we just heard. We press write, and we come down here and we press tone. And we want to pick a right destination, so we have to rotate the wheel. Because we'll probably want to change the name. Here we go. Once we go past, we can go to one. There it says init tone. See? Initialize tone. So that would be a good one to write till we wouldn't be overwriting any particular. We're in the user category here, and we're going to the initialize tone. But perhaps we would want to rename it. So we can rename it. Let's rename it our tone or something. This is a bit of a slow, painful approach here to doing it, but what can we do? What can we say? We're gonna just go QRSTU. Okay, once we've named our tone, we press OK and right, and then it says tone right. Are you sure? and we says okay, the tone is write completed, and now we've got our tone.